Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports podcast where we are here to pay the bills, and it is finally game week. It's Ravens week, and we got the whole squad. Let's bring them all in. We got Mike Bunt, we got Carson Hayek, and we got AJ Sapolsky here for the first episode of the first regular season preview episode of this 2025 NFL season, and it couldn't start off in a bigger way. The Bills host the Baltimore Ravens Sunday Night Football. If you're living under a rock and didn't realize that, coming up here 8:15 Eastern on Sunday. We're going to get into it all, but first we have to start with the big news of the day. We're going to start off hot here, and I'm going to go right over to Mike Bunt. Gabe Davis is once again a Buffalo Bill.
It's crazy.
And your initial reactions to the news this morning.
Yeah, absolutely wild to have him back in Buffalo. Not surprising after he visited last week, and you saw a lack of interest from the rest of the NFL. No matter how much they try to hype it up as he had interest, if he had legitimate interest, he wouldn't be coming back to the Bills on the practice squad, even if he does need a ramp-up period. But I think this is good for the Bills. You have a guy that's has familiarity with the quarterback, the offensive coordinator. He's a former number 2 receiver for the team. Right now, you have him on the practice squad. He's good insurance, basically no cost. You hope you don't need to use him in the near future, but if there are injuries, if there is players ahead of him not playing well, you have the ability to call him up at any period of time. And I think Gabe Davis in an offensive role like Mac Hollins last year, minus the special teams contributions, could be an effective player as a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, and bring value to the Bills, where right now at wide receiver 4 and 5, you really have unknowns with Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore. Yeah, they have speed. Yeah, they have the ability to separate. But really, what have either shown during their time in Buffalo to this point? Absolutely nothing. So if they don't step up, they're going to be in trouble, and Gabe is going to have the ability to possibly steal reps and steal opportunities down the stretch. And if at worst he's a practice squad guy providing depth, well, you could do a lot. You could do a lot worse than that. And especially later in the season when injuries happen, that's what you want on your team.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on this. I think that, I'm not surprised at all with the signing of the practice squad. I knew kind of when he visited that it was either going to be the Bills or Steelers, and the Steelers hadn't really done anything. They needed major wide receiver help. It was getting close to the regular season, and I don't feel like Gabe obviously is there health-wise yet either, so I don't think the Steelers would have gotten an immediate impact from him like they needed. So I think it makes sense on all cylinders. I think he's a guy that was a captain a few years ago. They elevated his role to what they thought he could be, even though he wasn't that player. He got a big contract in Jacksonville because of essentially, the 200-yard playoff game against the Chiefs a couple of years ago in the divisional round. So that really helped him, but he's really not done much of anything the past couple of years. I'm fine with the signing, and just how kind of like build off Mike's point. After Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, and Joshua Palmer, and I know Palmer and Coleman have got to really prove a lot in the Bill system. Palmer more specifically, but that's because he hasn't been here. They have big plans for him. They're giving him $12 million a year. There's not really anyone proven behind him. And Gabe Davis has done more than all of those guys, Terrell Shavers, Curtis Samuel, and Elijah Moore in this Bill system. So it makes sense to me to have that kind of safety net. You know what you expect from him. You know what he can give you. He's a plus run blocker. Struggles catching the ball at times. He's not the greatest 50-50 ball player, even though that's what he was looked at out of college. But I like the skill set. I like the familiarity. I like the decision from the GM, and I'm fine with it. It's what I expected, and it's really kind of we've been spending all this time talking about all these, Jordan Phillips, Jordan Poyer, Gabe Davis, like all these practice squad players that aren't even going to be on the field, and during the regular season unless injury. So I'm looking forward to moving past talking about practice squad players that are former Bills and talking really about and diving into this actual players that'll be out there on Sunday.
Yeah, I think you guys said it right on. I think this is a guy who the Bills know what they're getting out of him. He's going to be a role player at most at how it stands right now as a practice squad guy. So you can definitely do a lot worse. He's put up numbers in the past. Obviously, like you said, last 2 years have kind of been, he's just kind of been running routes out there, and he's been banged up too. So to me, it's a really low risk deal. Like, it doesn't hurt having Gabe Davis being your 7th wide receiver or first guy to possibly get called up for a game here and there, and possibly a high risk play. Like high reward play. We've seen him make plays in the past where he's had incredible games, like that playoff game against the Steelers. He had over, I believe, 200 yards or something close to that, something ridiculous. So this is a guy, like, he's had his moments in the NFL, and that's kind of hard to find when you're talking about other guys currently on the market as far as wide receivers that you might be looking at. Like, I brought up a few episodes ago, they brought in Willie Snead back in, I believe, late July or something like that. Like, he's got good numbers, but he hasn't been in the league the last 3 years. So it's kind of a weird spot to be in, and to have somebody who's 26 years old or something like that to come in with the numbers and pass that he's had. The Bills know what they're getting, and he's a guy that, you know, you could do a lot worse with, and he's got potential as far as if you need him to play a game, he can definitely be serviceable for you.
So nobody wants to be the brave one that Brandon Beane should be fired for today's signing. That this was the final nail in the coffin for the Bills' chances at a Super Bowl in this administration. No one wants to be brave enough for that.
Can we say it though? The narrative surrounding some of this is crap. It's crazy how insane people are on Twitter. And then, like, I'm not saying this to take shots at any local media people, but they're saying, well, Gabe Davis himself wasn't polarizing, but how the fans and how the Bills looked at Gabe Davis made him polarizing. Well, whose fault is that? Like the whole reason Gabe Davis is hated by the fan base is because everybody thought he was going to turn into some Pro Bowl receiver and had lofty expectations. It's not like Gabe Davis did anything saying, I'm an all-pro, I'm a diva, I'm this star. Like, he was a 4th-round pick who averaged 7 touchdowns a year in 4 seasons in Buffalo, like averaged 670, 680 yards a season on basically 40 catches, and people look at him as a disappointment during that stretch, when if you look at the average return on a 4th-round pick receiver, he's far exceeds 80% of what 4th-round pick receivers do in the NFL the first 4 seasons. But we look at him like the dude sucks. It's because our expectations for him were too high and they didn't meet reality. And yes, I fall victim to that. I thought he was going to be a good number 2, but also some of it was how the Bills used him. Also, they used him in the intermediate part of the field. They tried to have him as a vertical threat, and the Bills probably misused him quite a bit. They probably should have had him as a wide receiver 3 in hindsight. But I get so upset by fans. They're like, this guy is lucky to even be in the NFL. Like, no, like, even at his worst, another team thought he was a $13 million guy. Like, so it's not just Buffalo. It was another team across the NFL. And at his worst, he's a wide receiver 4 in the NFL. And Jake, you said this, 26 years old. How many people have you heard talking about Tyrell Shavers as this guy with immense potential who can really break out in the future? Tyrell Shavers is entering his 3rd season in the league, and he is 26 years old. Gabe Davis is entering his 6th season in the league, and he's 26 years old. Like, it's funny because on one end, people are saying that Gabe Davis is washed up and that he has nothing left, and then the player on the team, in the same receiver room, people are looking at it as a bright future, and they're the same age. It just shows that most people don't have any idea what they're talking about when it comes to certain things. And it's just narratives and preconceived biases in their heads. And you know what? Davis isn't wide receiver 2. He's not going to get 1,000-yard seasons. He's not going to be an impact player, high-impact player. But if he's your wide receiver 5, like say he comes in, and this is just a ramp-up period for him to be wide receiver 5, I can live with him being a Mac Hollins role, where he's a 15 to 25 catch guy for 200 to 250 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns. Because come playoff time, they might need that. And in a pinch, that's better than relying on somebody that you've never heard before in the practice squad stepping up, whom you may or may not know what you're getting out of in a big moment.
Yeah, it's not even about Gabe Davis or Jordan Phillips or any of these like who they are and what they could produce on the field at this point. It's that I just would love for these fans to go look at other teams' practice squads and just see like what we're talking about like a tool that hopefully is never used during the year, or used for 1 or 2 elevations during the year, and is just an option for roster management as much as anything else. And I think having guys that know what the hell is going on and have helped form the culture that everybody around the league likes to praise and have great things to say about is just, I don't see how it's a bad thing. Now, maybe you just don't like Gabe Davis for various reasons, or Jordan Poyer or Jordan Phillips or any of these guys, and that's perfectly fine, whatever. But I just wish it was more honest than like, let's fire Brandon Beane because of the practice squad. Like, it's not going to make or break this season.
Can we talk about the practice squad for a second?
Sure.
No, like, I know this, like, you guys are gonna laugh. I'm sorry for taking this over, but like, there's a lot of confusion about the Bills and how they run their practice squad. This ain't how it used to be 20 years ago, where you got 10 players and they're all players in the first or second year, and you're hoping that one of them has potential and you can eventually develop them into a pro. You get 6 spots for veterans, and people are acting like the Bills are just bringing back old washed up players and that's all they're doing. The Bills have been bringing in veterans for the last several years, guys that have actually contributed on the team in critical moments. Last year they had Kareem Jackson brought in during training camp, practice squad, and then when they had safety injuries, Kareem Jackson was playing important games down the stretch for the Bills. A guy that was like 35, 36 years old who started for several years but came to Buffalo on the practice squad. The year before that, when they had linebacker issues, they brought him one of the starting linebackers from the Texans and was on the practice squad. Now, he left after a month or two because he saw there wasn't an opportunity to really play. But this is not something that is new to the Bills. They had Josh Norman in. Remember how many people were laughing when they brought Josh Norman in? And they said, oh, this is just for the practice squad to mentor. Josh Norman ended up playing the maximum amount of games possible as a practice squad designee, and he did well in his limited amount of games. They've done it with John Brown. They did it an entire playoff stretch with Cole Beasley coming back to the team. You bring these guys in because some of them, you know, they're familiar with your system. So basically you're saying somebody familiar with our system that is older is going to be able to contribute on a shorter leash and come in right away, rather than have somebody that's 23, 24 that doesn't know anything, and we have to get them caught up to everything, and we don't know what they're going to do out on the field. So it's familiarity, number one. And number two, a lot of these other veterans they're bringing in, they know the level of play they're capable of. So it's less of a risk. It's basically giving you 6 additional players on your roster. And the Bills don't look at the roster as a 53-man roster. They look at it as a 59-man roster. So the last 6 spots of the practice squad, Dane Jackson, Jordan Phillips, Gabe Davis, guys like that, those are essentially guys that Jordan Poyer, they're guys that they know aren't going to be making other teams' rosters at this point or would have low interest across the league, but are good enough to make their roster. But they keep them on the practice squad because they don't need to risk the last 6 spots. So those spots like Tyrell Shavers, who they know would get claimed by somebody, that's a roster spot. But then Gabe Davis, who doesn't have that interest, practice squad. It's all strategic, and I don't understand why fans don't have a better idea of what Brandon Beane is doing when he's been doing the same thing for over 3 years now. And it really shows a level of boneheadedness and ignorance throughout the fan base that they're just now catching on to what the Bills have been doing for over 3 years.
Definitely. I mean,
go ahead,
like to build off of you, but Devontae Freeman was signed in January years ago to the practice squad. Kenny Stills was a part of that as well. Like, those are just to name a few. Like, they've been doing this for, 5 years now. So, I mean, they're just using this to their advantage as far as, depth. And also, I'd like to bring up, like, last year in a comparable guy in the depth chart, obviously 2 completely different players and how they play. Jalen Virgil was in the spot on the practice squad last year. I believe he played in 2 games. He played against Seattle last year, and I'm forgetting the other team. But I would rather have Gabe Davis any day of the week other than Jalen Virgil, who didn't even make the 53 this year and then obviously didn't make the practice squad either. So for me, I'd much rather have Gabe Davis. I think it just shows to the depth that they're looking for. And again, if you're a team that's trying to make a run, you'd prefer more proven talent that's been in the past. And that's an added bonus when you have veterans with the 6 extra spots. So they've been doing this for a while now, but I believe that's a really great point that you just made. So I'm all for it. I think whatever you can do to improve depth mid-season, why not do it?
Agreed.
Well said. Let's move on to our next part of this show where before we get into the Ravens, I want to hear from you guys on we have not done we're not big on, haven't done a lot of predictions, projections, everything else. There's got to be one thing each of us has here that we are that we want to predict for this Bills season, looking at the season outlook. Carson, I will start with you. So what is your big bold prediction, positive or negative, like whatever it is, but what is something that you're sure of that you believe that's going to happen for this Bills season this year?
Well, I think offensively, and I brought this up a little bit as far as overall in our group chat a few days ago with team regression and how I think that's a possibility. But I think in a specific spot where I could see regression, I think it's going to be offensively. It is so incredibly hard for the Bills offense to put up 30-plus point games like they did. I mean, it was clockwork last year, the amount of times that they did it. It was like, okay, they're going to score 31, 35 this week. I don't see that happening again. Obviously, they're going to have an upper half. They have the MVP at quarterback. Josh is one of a kind, right? But to me, I think they overperformed a little bit last year. Obviously, they overperformed compared to expectation, but I think they're going to level out a little bit last year. I think it's another year of film out on Joe Brady. I love him. I think he's great, and obviously he's a great adjuster. But I just cannot see a team this year scoring 30-plus point games 13 times, let's just say, for instance, this year. Like, that is such a hard thing to accomplish year after year. Like, look at the Chiefs for an example. Like, eventually your offense people start picking up on it, that the league starts making adjustments, right? Like, hey, they're still efficient. They get the job done one way or another. But that offense has slowed down a little bit these past few years, and that's been a big talking point when it comes to CBS or you name it with mainstream media. So for me, I think the offense is going to be anywhere from that 5 to 12 range in points per game. I don't think you're going to be averaging 31 points a game and putting up 30 left and right. So I don't know. That's just I'm pretty confident by that take. If I'm wrong in the right way, I'd completely approve of that, and I'd love to see them average 32 points a game or whatever again, because that means we're doing good. So that's where I stand. I think there's going to be some slight regression this year on the Bills' offense.
Yeah, I like that, Carson. I think that is a valid point, and I think, again, there's a lot of returners, but there also is some new faces being integrated there. I'm going to stick on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Ty Johnson is going to jump Ray Davis at running back 2 by the end of the season. That is my bold prediction for this, offensively at least. I think he's going to outsnap him this year. I think he's really going to take a more assertive role. I know they're probably going to use maybe James Cook a little bit more. I hope they do. I want to see a little bit more James Cook. He was at 54% of the snaps last year. I want to see that increase to maybe 60. But I really do like Ty Johnson. He's a north and south runner. He runs hard. He can catch the football. You saw him in big moments all year, especially that Lions game, really come up with some big plays. Allen's comfortable with him. So I think Ty Johnson will be the better option behind James Cook at the end of the year over Ray Davis. And I still think Davis will have his moments and he'll contribute, but I do trust a Ty Johnson more at this point. Defensively, I think Greg Rousseau will finally eclipse the 10-sack mark. I think he's going to benefit from Joey Bosa on the other side if he stays healthy. I think that the interior of the defensive line of Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones can be consistent. And now with the Dwayne Carter Achilles injury, hopefully he heals and can come back ready next year. I think Deion Walker and TJ Sanders will have a more increased role. So those guys will, really have to ramp up and step up in that rotation. So I think Greg Rousseau is going to take a step this year. I like what I've seen from him during camp in the preseason. And I think he's a guy that finally hits the 10-sack mark and benefits from all the collective signings that Brandon Beane has made along the defensive line.
So I like what both of you guys said. Offensively, I don't think they're going to drop to 5 to 12 scoring offense, but I do think it's possible that they're going to drop a little bit offensively just because the league is always adjusting and they're figuring things out. I think a lot of people, even though they knew the Bills were going to run the ball more last season, due to their lack of quality receiver depth, were caught off guard at how efficient and how effective the Bills' run game was. And once they really got that going with their offensive line, they were able to take things by storm. And what was it, 8 games in a row with 30-plus points or something like that, which tied an NFL record. I don't see that happening again. Another product of that was the ability to create a lot of takeaways on defense while protecting the ball offensively. I would expect Josh Allen's turnover numbers to go up a little bit this year because he's probably going to pass a little bit more than what he did last season. If I'm going to make bold predictions this year, I don't know if this is going to be really bold, but I think the Bills defense gets back into like that top like 7 to 8 range in the league. Last year, metrically, DVOA, they were the number 11th ranked defense. But if you look at the more basic metrics, yards allowed per game, third down defense, rushing yards allowed per attempt, they weren't that good in the basic metrics. What really saved this defense last year was they created a lot of turnovers. And that's a big reason why the Bills had so much success. But when I look at what really killed the defense last year, it was a secondary that wasn't really up for the job. And it was a defensive line that was good, but wasn't great. I think the Bosa signing is going to be very big for this defense. I think they're going to be able to get a lot more pressure than what they have been able to get in the past. Pair that with Matt Milano being fully healthy, with Terrell Bernard, they're going to be creating havoc in that front seven, in my opinion. And that is going to make life easier for the secondary. I don't think the Bills secondary by any stretch of the imagination is elite, but you have Christian Benford, you have Taron Johnson, you have good enough high-end talent there to where I don't believe that Cole Bishop or DeMar Hamlin, whoever ends up being that guy, most likely Cole Bishop, and let's say it's Dorian Strong or Jamarcus Ingram to start the season, even if it is Trey, I don't think those two guys are low enough players to where this entire defense is going to fall apart. You look at this is a crazy stat that I looked up. Everyone says how takeaways are a product of luck and not something that you can consistently expect out of a defense on a yearly basis. The last 5 years, the Bills have been number 3 in takeaways 4 times. In the 1 year they weren't third, they were 4th. McDermott has had top 10 in takeaways every year he's been in Buffalo as head coach. And he's been even going back to his Carolina days, he's been top 10 in takeaways with his defenses going back to 2013. Takeaways are what the Bills defense is built on. So when everybody says this is a bend but don't break defense, some elements of that is true. Like they'll let you run the ball. But what I think fans really mistake the Bills defense is the Bills defense is what you would call an aggressive defense. When you're consistently leading the league or in the top 5 in the league in takeaways, it's because you're confusing offenses. So we need to stop this whole like the Bills just give up yards, then get lucky with takeaways. No, their entire defense is schemed on. We're going to generate pressure from the 4-man rush, which they're always normally around 10 to 15 in sacks. So even with lack of like pressure in normal old school ways, they still end up above average in sacks and pressures. Then create bad mistakes by the quarterback and let your secondary feast. And I think this year is going to be the year they take a step forward in that route. And I guess my last bold prediction, I won't say it for this season, but I'll say it for the next 2 years to give me some leeway when this happens. I do think if the Bills are going to make it to the Super Bowl, it is happening either this year or next year. This is the window right now. The next 2 years is the window for the Bills to get there and win one. And I think they will get to one eventually, either this year or next year.
Couldn't just stick it to this year, Mike. Had to take the cop out of next year. Had to take next year. I see. That's like we'll go semi-bold. We'll go aerial semi-bold with the last one. But I like what you said about the D-line. I said that about the D-line last year, so I can't just be doing this. I'm gonna be the boy who cried.
Well, I will say this, Jake.
Yeah,
what were my bold predictions last year?
I don't remember what I did.
I had two bold predictions last year. The one was that Josh Allen was going to win MVP, and then the other one was that the defense wasn't going to be as good as what you thought.
And he did. You did say like 8 to 12 range.
They were going to fall closer to 10 to 12, which DVOA 11 is right in the middle. So I don't know. Maybe I got lucky last year. We'll see this year.
Bills fans won't give you credit if they don't make the Super Bowl this year for that one. I'm just going to let you know you'll have to do some ringing there. We got some comments here that I want to get to right after this. My bold prediction is just directly in line with where I've been arguing with most people about things in general. I think Cole Bishop's going to be pretty solid. I just think there's a track record of the Bills developing defensive players in the back seven enough that we should think that he's not going to just be a negative defensively. Like the same talk happened about Terrell Bernard 2 years ago, where everybody was up in arms about him being in a starting position. Where did Matt Milano come from? Matt Milano wasn't a guy that was thought to be a superstar right away. That's a linebacker position. Christian Benford was a 6th round pick, is now one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Cam Lewis and Jamarcus Ingram were guys who they're not stars, but they're developed into useful pieces on this team who can play and are going to have roles again this year. We could go to Jordan Poyer coming around 6-7 years ago. What was Jordan Poyer's career like before? And I know that he was dealing with a lot of personal issues and everything else on his side, but what was he doing on the field before he showed up to Buffalo? Well, like there's so many countless examples of this team and this coaching staff getting the most out of what players of their players, specifically in the secondary, even if they're limited in talent, even if they're limited in potential. And this is not a guy who's limited in talent or potential. It's a guy who had a 1st, 2nd round grade, who started 4 games last year and got hurt. And the coach has said the biggest thing he's needed is reps. So do you think that maybe reps will help him? I think reps help everybody. So I'm just going to, that's where I'm at. I just think he's going to be solid. I think that the track record shows more that they've been able to turn these guys into productive players than just crashing out. And if you want to bring up Kaiir Elam, I mean, I just didn't think he was a good fit to begin with. And you could go back various podcasts, especially the one right when he got drafted, that I mentioned that. So that's just where I'm at. I just think Cole Bishop's going to be pretty good. And I don't have all the comments today. I saw so many comments on the Trainwreck Instagram and posts when Gabe Davis got signed. I said, is that a safety? And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this is like the second you bring in a safety, you're saying you're done with it. Like that's what it is. That's what the asset management would be. So that's where I'm at. I think the guy's going to be good.
Kaiir Elam 3 years. Like, fan base gave Kaiir Elam 3 years, and they want to give up on Cole Bishop after 1 year.
Not even like half a year. Like, he played 16 games, but when did that shoulder injury happen? Like, I don't remember exactly what it was. Middle of the year. We know it wasn't the same for him after that, and that takes reps away from you. Like, getting him on the field is important, and maybe it looks bad against Baltimore week 1, but the point is to get him ready for week 10, get him ready for December, get him ready for the playoffs. That's just where I'm at. Like, I just have faith in this staff with what they've been able to do with the secondary for years and years. Any other big things? I don't really have anything. I'm kind of in line with you, Carson, on whether the offense probably regresses a little bit just because that's just how these things work. I also think that we can't expect as many turnovers as last year from the defense, so that pressure from the defensive line and being more sound in the back end is going to be more important than ever. But I think the Bills know that as well, like every other good team. But any other predictions? Anything else you got here?
I got one. Jordan Poyer starts more games at safety than DeMar Hamlin if injuries.
Ooh,
that's bold.
I kind of like that.
Give me Tyler Bass making 85+% of his field goals.
Oh,
I don't know if that's even crazy, Carson. That's like his career
17 to 20. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And everybody's like, let's sign Greg Joseph. Well, give the guy a chance.
I'm with you, Carson. I would take that too. Like, I was the guy in the stadium during the Miami game that when it came to the 61-yard field goal, I was like,
he's making that.
He's probably going to make this.
22 yards. He's putting that thing off the side of my house.
I got it.
No, a 61-yard throw was perfect for Bass because he just has to boom it and not give a shit. Because if he misses it, nobody's like, oh, he missed a 61-yard. So he doesn't care there. He's just kicking it, and he's not like. I think Bass's problem is probably more mental than other things, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
Immediate stat check, 84.5 over his career, 82.8 each of the last 2 years. So 85 would be
plus rebound.
Good, needs the rebound. I think it's the confounding thing is the short kicks that he misses. Like the fact that he can hit the 61, but it's even throughout the preseason, like a miss from 33, a miss from 40. It's like I feel like Bills fans are more just like want some consistency with the misses rather than them just being from all over the field, all over distances, everything else. Like it's not a crapshoot, but everybody, like we're talking about a fan base who's up in arms about a wide receiver signed to the practice squad. So they're gonna pinpoint the kicker if he misses a kick that they think he should hit. That's for sure.
You know what's tough though? Half these kickers kicking domes now. And Tyler Bass is kicking in Buffalo and wind and elements. If Tyler Bass kicked for an indoor team, he's probably kicking.
Imagine if he was in Denver. He'd be hitting like 70 yards.
I think the kicking conversation in Buffalo is so overblown with him. Because let's be real, Bass is kind of not your prototypical kicker. He has sometimes he has movement on the football, let's just say. So he can have some of the ugliest kicks you'll ever see, which makes him look really horrible. But then you look at his percentages and where it lines up. He's right there with most of the other kickers in the league, despite playing in tougher conditions. I think he's a perfectly fine kicker. We just let our eyes think that he's not as good as what he really is.
Yeah, fans are just I'll go back. Fans are just more emotional this year about everything. I think that's what it all comes down to. It's a like the association of Gabe Davis with failure is why most fans, or not most fans, but why the fans are mad about Gabe Davis. And it goes to what Mike said about the expectation. Why is Terrell Shavers at 26? No one cares because we haven't seen him yet, right? There's the uncertainty of what he could become or what he's become. And he's also a good story, undrafted. He's been on the practice squad the last 2 years. He made a big play in a big moment in a preseason game where they trusted him. He's easier to root for than a Gabe Davis, who they thought was going to be a guy where the Bills put him in an elevated role, and he didn't live up to the fans' expectations. So it's just more. It's like going through a drought, but with falling short in the playoffs. It's just the heightened emotions every year of fans, and some of that leads to thinking in a more dull way. That's just how it is. That's how people do it. It's hard to think logically when you are so uptight and frustrated constantly with falling short. So then everything you do, you just overanalyze it and think, oh, this isn't good. He was here when they had 13 seconds. He was here and didn't live up to his expectations. Or Jordan Poyer, he was here, but he didn't get it done. Jordan, same thing. So it's I think it's that association with not knowing that really gets fans upset more than I think. It's just emotional reaction to more than I think. And they don't like the player themselves on top of it.
You're right. You're right on, AJ. And I agree 100% with that. It's the connecting them with falling short. Correct. And saying these guys didn't get it done then when they were healthy. And
that's why I get it in a way. I don't agree with it, but I understand why you'd be oh my God, Gabe Davis again, really?
I understand the reaction. What I'm saying is it's a flawed reaction. It's not a rational one. You're definitely right with emotion. My thing is, we shouldn't be reacting that way. We need to realize, okay, Gabe Davis is a 26-year-old receiver that has the ability to impact and contribute to an NFL team. We shouldn't be killing him just because he was on a team that fell short in 13 seconds. Because if we're going to be real, what's the position that most people associate failure with a football team when they fall short? It's quarterback. We don't do that with Josh Allen because obviously Josh Allen is tremendous and the Bills wouldn't be anywhere close to where they are without Josh Allen. But the fact of it is we put a higher amount of blame on other players because we have to mentally, we're going through mental gymnastics. We're scapegoating everybody else to a higher degree because we don't want to accept that it's 53 players on a team and that each one of them could do something slightly better. The Bills would have gotten past Kansas City one of the last 3 times. And that's the tough part because a lot of people can't accept that just because you think Josh Allen is amazing doesn't mean that he isn't above criticism. You can say Josh Allen is the MVP quarterback, one of the best players in the league, and yet if he would have made a few more plays against Kansas City in any one of those 3 games, the Bills would have been in a Super Bowl likely one of those years. But a big portion of our fan base struggles to say that. And let's be real, you could be saying he's 1% of the blame. But to act like Gabe Davis is 20% of the blame is a crazy, it's just mental gymnastics. And that's the problem. And that's the reason why I do like this young core. Because they're mostly free of all of the shit that the older players had to go through. So a lot of the fans, we can at least move on with a lot of it. But I guess bringing these guys back is a reminder of they haven't gotten done. And I think as Josh Allen gets older and his years start to diminish during his prime, that stress and anxiety is only going to get worse and worse and worse. If he's 33, 34, 35 and still hasn't won one, our fan base is going to be intolerable during that stretch.
Yep. That's way too far in advance for me to even be considering at the moment, to be honest. I think that we have a lot of years of prime Josh Allen left, but in this fan base, like, I hear you when you say the next 2 years are the window, but I don't think Josh Allen's going to be like not a top 10 quarterback in 2 years. And we've seen this team be able to maneuver cap gymnastics last year and still produce a winning football team. So to me, I get the frustration of being a team that hasn't done it and hasn't gotten it done. But I also just don't understand it at all, because if you just open the perspective up league wide, even conference wide a little bit, who else has broken through the door? Like, that's where we're at. We're talking about, and everybody goes to the Bengals. Okay, the Bengals made the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and then they didn't make the playoffs for the last 2 years. Like, what are we like? What would you rather be?
Yeah.
Like, that's my point. Like, I would rather be the team that's consistently great and right there, especially after what we had, how long we know, like, you can go without being relevant in the league. So I just think that is the perspective that is last in these conversations. I get it, but I feel that I sat through all these games too and watched all these games and felt all the same things, and yet I still come back into the year expecting them to be good.
I'm with you, Jake. Jake, I'm with you. But as AJ can vouch, and we've had these conversations a lot, because he'll throw the common fan at me, and
yep,
it's hard for the average person to accept that during this last 6 years, the Bills are probably on the greatest run of any team in the history of the NFL that didn't go to at least a Super Bowl. So it's the whole, if they didn't go to one during this stretch of years, how are they going to get there? And this is where I'm with you on, Jake, where I'm with you on everything, Jake. Just because they didn't do it the last 6 years, like, they might have another 6 years coming up where they're equally good to what they have been, if not better, and they'll have more and more opportunities, and they just have to take advantage of it. And like you said, the Bengals haven't won one. They at least got to one, which is why people look at them differently. The Ravens with Lamar Jackson, he's had a historic run for 5 years. He hasn't gotten to one. And this is why it always comes back to, at some point in time, you have to just give credit where credit is due. The Kansas City Chiefs have been on some historic run. They've been to 5 of the last 7 Super Bowls. And the 2 years they didn't go, they lost in overtime. And people want to say, well, the Bills have had opportunities. It's amazing the Bills have even had opportunities. The Bills have come as close as anybody to really beating them. It's just that they've had 3 heartbreaking losses back to back to back in the playoffs against them. And all you're really hoping is that in the next 5 years, they find a way to win one of them. And if they win one of them and they take advantage, then we move past all this. But we also have the defeatist Buffalo sports mentality, where we always assume what the worst is going to happen will happen. If we lived in Philadelphia, if we lived in New York, LA, Atlanta, anywhere else in the country where we have won championships, where we didn't have 50-plus year droughts, we would not be having the same mentality we are having right now. We think this way because we have suffered 4 Super Bowl losses in a row. We haven't won a Super Bowl. We haven't won a Stanley Cup. So we just assume we're going to find a way to screw it up, because that's the way we think as a fan base. And it's irrational, and it is not backed in facts. But until we win one, that is how Buffalo sports fans are going to be approaching this, because they already feel like we have wasted our opportunities.
And Mike, not to negate your bold prediction about the 2-year window, but didn't also there was also people, podcasters, national media, local media telling us for the last 4 years before this, maybe not in the reset year, but maybe the years before that, like 2020 to 2023, that this is a Super Bowl window with Josh Allen. He's on a cheap contract. The contract hasn't kicked in. They got Von Miller. For me personally, I said this in the chat the other day, like I still feel great about the season and I think they have a chance. But when they signed Von Miller going into that year, coming off what happened, that was the most confident I had felt going into a season about the Bills going to a Super Bowl. And that's the thing, like with fans, they're hearing it constantly. The common fan, they're hearing it constantly. People say, oh, this is the window. Oh, that was the window. Like, I feel like in hindsight, we all said 2 years ago that, oh, this is the window the next 2 years for the Bills to figure it out and get it done because of Von Miller signing or something like that, or having Stephon Diggs or the camaraderie with the offense or having a great defense. Like that's what's hard is we're always constantly saying, oh, these next 2 years of the window, these next 2 years of the window. And it's never like, we're not getting there. So I think that's hard. And I agree with you in the thought process, Jake, that like, it still can happen. Just because it hasn't happened, it doesn't mean it won't happen. But there haven't been major changes. The head coach is still here. There's been fans that have been done with him since 2021, and they're still trying him out there. So it's just a lot of emotions for a team that they have the best quarterback, if not a top 3 quarterback in football, paired with a great defense in a regular season for the most part, besides last year, and they still can't figure it out when it matters. And props to the Chiefs, respect to them. They're a great team. But I think that's why it's hard when fans are constantly hearing, this is the window. No, now this is the window. No, this is the new window. Like we're constantly just churning those.
But that comes from listening to national media. And I think as we've learned as time has gone by, that's a recipe for disaster. Don't be listening to the
Were we saying that though, Mike, like 3 years ago that this is the window?
Okay, so I'll put it like this. Yeah. In hindsight, like
you know what I mean? Like
in hindsight, the 1 year where I entered it and I was like, this is the year, like they gotta win it. Like this is the year. Was the year they opened up against the Rams on Thursday Night Football, coming off of the 13 seconds. Everybody that offseason was saying this has to happen. Like if you really look back at like the McDermott era, 2020 came out of nowhere. Like that was like their elevation. Like yes, 2019 they made the playoffs, but Josh Allen ascending to superstardom, that was 2020. They weren't ready yet to compete with the Chiefs in their place. Like that was just COVID year. Like they overperformed. 2021 was the disappointing season where they caught fire late, and that was 13 seconds. That felt like a wasted opportunity in the playoffs. 22, like in hindsight, after DeMar Hamlin's situation, you also had Dawson Knox's brother died. There was a shooting in Buffalo. There was a lot of stuff that.
But at the time, that's not what we were hearing, though. We were hearing that was going to
understand. But like at the beginning of the year, it felt like it was their year. But as that season wore on,
that especially that Chiefs game, like Von gets the sack, Von makes the play, like Taron Johnson makes the interception. It was like
was going right, but then
Von and Trey get hurt.
Yeah. You think about it, Von then tears his ACL. Greg Rousseau wasn't 100% going into the playoffs, and even like not even going to talk about the rumors, but like there was things that happened off the field with that group, and against Cincinnati, it just all fell apart, and it was a disaster. And like I'm not going to excuse it; it was a disaster. The next season, they come back. They look like a much better unit, but they just couldn't. They couldn't put it all together. And I guess the thing that's frustrating is if we really look at the playoffs 2 years ago when they lost on the Tyler Bass missed field goal.
This has to be the year the Bills are at home against
that team that year wasn't really that good. They were sloppy, like a lot of turnovers, a lot of mistakes.
Again, made a run late.
Like a lot of this was. I think the thing that's more frustrating is the Bills have made runs in all these seasons late in the season. And normally when you look at late season runs, it carries into the playoffs. But no matter what the run is, they can't carry it over against Kansas City. And I think what it comes down to is the Bills are front runners. They're used to playing ahead of games. And even last season, what kind of changed? They weren't as front runner oriented. There's a lot of games where they were close at halftime and they really laid it on in the third and fourth quarters. But what changed last year? They started becoming better situational football. They were running the ball better. They had different ways of playing football. You look at the Bills 2024 and prior, they were more of an air raid one style offense where if you shut down their passing game, you could slow them down, which I think is why in the playoffs they had struggles sometimes against certain opponents. I'm not saying like when I say struggles, I'm not saying like they're not putting up points. I'm not saying they're not scoring, but like you look at the Cincinnati game, you look at even the playoff loss to Kansas City in 2024. People forget like that wasn't an explosive offense. That was like dinking and dunking the entire game, like 5 minute, 6 minute drives. And then last year was the first time where I really saw like this is a complete team that really has the ability to play a different style. So like a lot of fans are going to look at the Bills and they're going to say wasted opportunities all those 5 years. I don't think all those teams were balanced, complete teams. Now, they all had the ability to win the Super Bowl. I think last year, while less talent, was the most complete team that the Bills have had under McDermott. And that's why I believe that their vision going forward is going to get them to where they want to be. Because if you want to take out the passing game, I believe they can run the ball on you. They have different plans of attack. And I remember going into last season, how many people did you hear on WGR? How many people did you hear on the local media laughing at the Bills and Joe Brady for wanting to run the ball? Everybody was saying they better not run the ball like they did at the end of 2023-24 season when Joe Brady first took over. They're saying no way the Bills are going to be running the ball that much. Well, they did. And it coincided with their best season and the closest they've gotten to the Super Bowl under McDermott and Allen. Why? Because running the ball is a mentality. You need to have your ingrained in your linemen, ingrained with your running backs. And then you add in Josh Allen on top of it, you're unstoppable when you have the two working. So I'll say this. When I said 2-year window, I'm not saying the Bills can't win a Super Bowl in like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. But what I'm saying is these next 2, maybe 3 years is going to be the best opportunity for them to win one during the Josh Allen era. And it's because they have the right collection of offensive philosophy, play caller, quarterback, passing game, run game, and then you still have McDermott controlling the defense. And let's be real, I always talk up Kansas City. And like, let's be real, you have to talk up a team that's gone to 5 out of 7 Super Bowls and probably should have gone to 7 in a row if we're like being real. One of these years, Kansas City is going to lose a game that they shouldn't lose in the playoffs. And you just have to hope that you're the team that takes advantage of a Kansas City loss. Like, if we're really being like, look at it, say the Bills are a 1 seed and they get Houston as a 4. And then the 2-3, say Baltimore has a tough year and it's Pittsburgh as a 3 or Cincinnati, like Pittsburgh or Cincy as a 3 and Kansas City's a 2. And Pittsburgh upsets Kansas City in the playoffs. They just get a great defensive day. And it's Pittsburgh coming to Buffalo in the AFC Championship. You're probably going to think Buffalo's going to go to the Super Bowl in that scenario. So it's really when you get that opportunity, take advantage of it. So far, the Bills haven't been lucky enough to have that opportunity. But when that opportunity comes, they need to take advantage of it. And Kansas City, people talk about the Bills rolling through the AFC East. The AFC West is not the cakewalk it has been the last 5 years. They're going to be more challenged than what they have been in previous years. If Kansas City drops, that's where you have to take advantage. Because the Bills have not had a first-round bye in any of these seasons with Josh Allen and McDermott. I'm telling you, that's the difference between them making it and them falling short.
Well, yeah, that's one big thing that is just like an operational thing of the league. But the league switching to 7 playoff teams as the Bills turned into a top 2 team in the AFC pretty much every year, and losing that bye has had more of an effect than anybody really wants to admit, honestly. I also want to go back to the fact these last 2 games, the last 2 years against Kansas City, 3 points, 3 points. Like, these are like the margin is as thin as you can possibly get. And if you want to, like, the team I always bring back up and I think is very fair to be compared to is the 2000s Colts. The 2 years before they made the Super Bowl, got blown out by New England and lost by 10 to New England. Like, that's a team who wasn't even as close as the Bills have been in these moments. It's a mental hurdle that this team has to get through. And I want to bring it all the way back to what we were talking about with the fan psyche and everything else. I'm so adamant about it because I think that it has a tangible effect on how this team looks at everything and their mentality going into these games, because it's such a tight-knit community, because Josh Allen is in the community and sees people, because Deion Dawkins is in the community and sees people, because Khalil Shakir is in the community and sees people. It is a college town feel, and you're telling me they don't hear it every year? You don't tell me there's not random Joe Schmo fan walking up to me like, this got to be the year, guy. Like, it's not like that in these big cities. It's just not. It's not like, I live in Chicago. It's not like that here. Like, it's not the same. It's a different kind of pressure, but it's more of a media pressure. It's more of like a lot of noise and a lot of things like, it's not directly hearing from the people in your community and taking on this generational trauma that this team shouldn't have to. They have their own shit to go through. They shouldn't have to deal with the generational trauma of Buffalo sports, because nobody should have to deal with what that entails and what it is. So I think fans who just sit there and are endlessly negative need to reflect on how that actually affects the community and the psyche and everything around this team, especially as you get into the playoffs and start spreading that shit around, because I just think it has a tangible effect on the mental spot that this team needs to get into to be able to get over this immense hurdle that is Kansas City and getting back to another Super Bowl. Like, I don't think that's nothing. I don't know how much it is, but I don't think it's nothing. That's for sure.
We know
the connection to the community goes both ways. What's that? Sorry.
We know with the Sabres, it's a real thing. And me and AJ used to joke. No, I'm not even joking around. Like, me and AJ used to joke about this a couple years ago. But like, when the fans were booing them, like, you could say, yeah, it's fair, it's deserved. Like, they've missed the playoffs 14 straight years. It got reported that there was players on the team pissed off at the fan base because they're like, we haven't been here for 14 years. We've been here for 1 or 2 years, and you're booing us for something that is the fault of the organization for the last decade. And they held it personally. And I know for a fact from people I like connected to the Sabres, there's players on the Sabres that legit hate the fan base. Like, and I'll guarantee you some things. Those players, they're not battling for the city. They're not putting their 100% in for the city. They're doing it for themselves. So that means I'm going to do a selfish play to stat pad that might cost the team. They might do it and they won't care because they're going to be gone anyway. And I'm not saying this is happening with the Bills, but Jake is absolutely right. Like, players are on social media. Players go out in town. They have to grocery shop. They have to get food. They have to still live their lives. I was just in New York City, and I've been in Toronto several times. When you're in Toronto, you can see Toronto Maple Leafs players walking by. They're dressing in suits, and they just blend in with everybody else because everybody else is wearing a suit. Like, you're dressed up. You're in a big city. You're just another rich person walking down Midtown or whatever, and you can blend in. Josh Allen can't blend in Buffalo. Half these players on the Bills can't blend in. And I'm not saying that it bothers them, but a lot of these guys, once they get to being professionals, they don't want to be bothered. They want to be alone. They want their privacy. And I guarantee you, Jake, it's probably not a big thing, but it definitely has an impact. Now, at the same time, they spend more time together as teammates because of that, so they can build bonds with each other, and that's a good thing, as we saw with Hard Knocks. But I will say, like, when you've lost 3 or 4 times to the same team in the playoffs, like, let's be real, we already know what the storyline is going to be happening if they play again. And you could say Terrell Bernard could say it doesn't impact him. Rookies can say it won't impact them. The moment they make one mistake and they hear the murmur or the silence of the crowd, they're going to be thinking about it. And then once you start thinking about things and you're not playing loose, you're not playing free, that's when you make a mistake. And when you think about the razor-thin margin between what the Bills and the Chiefs are, every little play makes a difference. And that could be Tyler Bass missing a field goal. That could be Deion Dawkins letting Chris Jones to get just that extra foot on him, which impacts Josh Allen's release. It could be Josh Allen in KC missing a wide-open Curtis Samuel who would have had 30 yards downfield, or him coming out of the gate and having 2 overthrows on the first drive of the game, almost leading to interceptions.
Yes.
That's not happening. That's not happening in October. That's not happening in November. And you know what the difference is? The Bills get out to a 7-0 lead in that game. You get the nerves out of the way, and then you kick ass. When you're doing that against Kansas City in the playoffs and you're overhyped or you're thinking about something, you fall behind, and then the entire rest of the game is different. So we can all say, like, oh, he's been great. Yes, Josh Allen has been great. All these other guys have been great. Great is not good enough when you're going up against one of the greatest dynasties in the history of the NFL. You have to be, I'm not perfect, but you have to not get in your own way. And at the end of the day, the Bills lose to the Chiefs because the Bills hurt themselves more than what the Chiefs hurt themselves when the moment is at its biggest.
Yeah, man. Carson, you jump back in here. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on to some Ravens stuff?
I mean, I didn't really touch in because I didn't want to restate something you guys already said and look like a jackass more than I already am. So I figured, like, hey, like you talked about it, like, it's just minute details. That's the game of football. You're really playing yourself. Alignment, assignment, technique, that's all it is. So when it comes to the 1% details, you got to do it. You got to get it correct. And Allen's start to the KC game, I'm so glad you brought that up because I had that circled on the sheet of paper. Unacceptable. Obviously, you got to understand it. Huge pressure environment with the pass and the trauma, everything that's happened there. You got to understand that. It's something that's going to happen every single game when these teams match up in the playoffs. It's just how it is. But you can't have missed throws. It was just a brutal start. And there you go, chasing points. And then that starts to seek in, right? So once you start chasing, it becomes tough. And obviously they put themselves in a position to win that game. And, maybe a call from the referees helps you out every now and again. And that didn't happen. So, it's just all the little stuff that adds up eventually, and it starts to take a toll. And I think the fan base has every right to be a little bit more emotional about this year. Like we've seen it. We're getting a little bit more spoiled each year, forgetting about those drought years that I'm sure Bunt and Jake like to rip on me and AJ about because, I guess we haven't experienced it. But regardless, we're spoiled right now to have the MVP, leading our group, the franchise quarterback we were looking for 20 years before I was even born. So, hey, I'm looking forward to this year, right? Like, Bun, I wouldn't even put the 2-year window on it. I know you said that they could win it 6 years down the road, right? But, like, as long as they got Josh, man, they got a chance. With that said, though, injuries do matter. But with Josh, they got a chance, and we really are great to have him. So
let's look ahead, huh? Let's look forward.
Yeah, let's do it.
Isn't it crazy? We've got almost an hour in the show, and we haven't talked about the Ravens, which is literally a playoff rematch in the AFC Divisional on Sunday Night Football, like game of the year, week 1. Like, we might need to get a couple minutes on the Ravens.
Yeah, I think we have trauma that we don't know about. I think that's why we didn't.
Oh, we do. That's what this all is for sure. I'm just we're there. But this is good. I think we have to have these conversations and have to reset because it's a big year. Like it is a big year. There is a lot of expectation. Like you said, AJ earlier, like they're stress. Its tensions are higher right now. Like stress is higher right now because the continued results, because of the MVP, because everything else. Like that's where we're at. And it's hard. It's not a answer people want to hear. Like the margins are thin and maybe it's a 50-50 shot and they'll get it this time. Like it's not comforting. It's not comforting for an emotional fan base who's been through it, but it's real. And that's the thing. It just is what it is. We'll just have to see. Like this is a great point from Partham here. New plays and looks from the Chiefs in the postseason. Absolutely. We know the Chiefs specifically have saved stuff for the Buffalo matchup from the regular season to the playoff matchup and rolled things out there that they haven't done before. I think the Bills need to also think that way, but it's a hard dichotomy when you're trying to get the 1 seed. You want to push for that and everything else, but also trying to save stuff for a matchup later on that might not happen. It's hard to do. The Bills, though, I just really do think it's a lot of, as you said, I've never heard this before, Carson, alignment, assignment, technique, right, as 3 easy words. It really comes down to the simple things and the Bills getting out of their own way in a lot of these things. Like it comes down to the Bills are their own worst enemy. Can they not do that this year? Can they not do that on Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens? Carson, let's start with you as you're back here. The outlook for this game. Ravens, Bills, 2 of the best offenses from last year. The Ravens also one of the best defenses by the end of the year last year. Obviously a heavyweight matchup, Sunday Night Football. It's high of stakes as you can get as we're talking about. We've talked about the 1 seed a lot, and we expect these 2 teams to be right near the top of the conference. So what are your thoughts on this matchup heading into Sunday night?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of them, right? Like I think a lot of us do. First, for starters, we got to remember the opponent here. We got to remember it's week 1. That's a huge disclaimer because I know how volatile everyone's going to be, and it's really hard not to be. If we win this game, crown the Bills Super Bowl champions. That's going to be the mood of everybody. If we lose this game, Sean McDermott, fire him, Bean, fire him. That's just, we got to relax. First of all, we were playing a great team week 1, a team that really, whether or not they should have beat us last year in the playoffs is a different story because they beat themselves.
Yep.
So there's a lot to go, but we got to remember it's week 1. First of all, take some time, relax, enjoy the game. But for me, it's tough. Like Ravens defense, they started the year off terrible. They really turned up though towards the back half of the year, and it carried over into the postseason. I still think they struggle against the pass. They were ranked I have it written down here. I believe 31st against the pass last year. So, I mean, they bring in Jair Alexander to try to help that out this year. I mean, they got Kyle Hamilton, who's looking to take that next step. Van Noy was a beast, Roquan Smith. I mean, you name it. Marlon Humphrey's still there. Like, they have the talent. So Malachi Starks is in the back end as well. Guy who, we were looking at over here come draft time. But
I wish.
The talent is so there for them, which is why I'm a little nervous about them, because like those are some really quality dudes and they just didn't perform, as a whole last year to probably how they wanted to. But as far as like offense, like to touch on what we just touched on with KC, like, it's week 1 of the year. There's no more important time when you start getting nerves and everything like that. Like that week 1 is a huge nerve test and a mental battle. It's like, do I still got it? Like, are we still good? Because there's a lot of question marks. Nothing's proven. Especially when you have a lot of new guys and free agency and everything in the offseason took place. So for me, I'm looking for the Bills offense, get Josh some easy completions, get him in rhythm, get the offense in rhythm. Worst thing that happens is you start 3-0. We can't have that or have a turnover. So real easy stuff. RPOs, play action, some bootlegs, you name it. Run the football a little bit. Do what you do well. And again, like if Baltimore, they lost the playoff game themselves last year. That's how I'd phrase that. You can't have a bad snap, then Lamar fumbles it, and then Lamar, with the turnovers last year too. So you have to play yourself. Like I know we're going to talk about turnovers here in a few minutes, but it's a game I'm nervous about. I know they're nervous about, but this is what you want. Week 1 Sunday Night Football. It's a privilege to have this pressure. But I like our chances. But again, we assignment technique, like I said, Jake. So we're playing ourselves. But I'm sure we'll get the score predictions. But I guess I'll give it to AJ and then Bunt for their takes as well here.
And let's welcome Mr. Porter here.
Yes,
Ravens
sir.
fan. We're good with all fan bases. Happy to have you here and looking forward to Sunday Night Football. I'll toss it to AJ.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm looking forward, like everybody, to this game. It's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the two heaviest debated quarterbacks of who's better. And both of them have nothing really to show for it. I mean, Lamar has the 2 MVPs, Allen has the 1 MVP, but in terms of the big overall goal of winning a Super Bowl, neither of them gotten there. So this is a big test for both teams. I think defensively, this defense is going to get tested right away. You're thrown into you're at home, which will help. The crowd noise will play a factor, but Lamar's been here a couple of times now. He is a veteran quarterback in this league. Now they have Zay Flowers has been in this league now. Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, their whole offense is really very experienced and has been in these situations. So I think the Bills defense is going to have to come to play. I'm really interested to see how this defensive line plays against Lamar. Can they contain him? I think tackling defensively is going to be the biggest thing for this Bills defense, tackling in open space, getting Lamar Jackson down, even if he does scramble, right? Make him slide or gang tackle him. Same with Derrick Henry. Henry averaged, quick stat, 2.8 yards after contact per attempt last season. So that to me says that you have to get him down right away. You cannot let him, burst for an 80-yard touchdown run from the first play or 90 yards, whatever it was on the first play of scrimmage. The more he gets steam, the more he's blocked up front, the better he's going to be because that gives him more, speed just more speed to get through the holes.
Momentum.
Momentum. There it is. More momentum to, really execute what he wants to do. So I think tackling defensively is going to be huge. They need to be able to be all over the ball. They need to play fast. They need to play disciplined as well. I'm really excited to see how this defensive line looks. Offensively, really, Carson hit the nail on the head. Get comfortable. I would love a couple scripted run plays, couple bootlegs, play action. I want to see more play action out of Joe Brady this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Get the ball in Keon's hands early, right? He's a guy that is going to have a lot of pressure on him this year. Get him some looks where he can get open early, maybe some yak, and get him nice and comfortable in this game. Khalil Shakir, we really know what we got. So overall, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a battle between two great teams, two great players in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, two great coaches in Harbaugh and McDermott. And where else would you rather be? I mean, I'm going to get there 4 o'clock, tailgating, Sunday Night Football, final home opener in Highmark Stadium. The emotions are going to be high. Carson also hit the nail on the head with if they win, it's the Super Bowl. It's the year, right? We were talking about that earlier. It's the year we're going to be hearing that. throughout all of Orchard Park and throughout the national media. And if they lose, I think people are going to be upset, but I think we'll rationalize it better to say that it was just week one. But either way, I don't think either way, don't get too excited because a lot's going to change. A lot of injuries can happen throughout the year. And I'm just looking forward to the Bills playing hard, executing, taking care of the football, getting pressure on Lamar Jackson, and hopefully walking away with a W.
I think it's going to be a fascinating game on Sunday, especially because these are two teams that in recent years don't really get off to the best of starts. Now, the Bills, it's normally their openers. The Ravens, sometimes it's early games in general. Last year, obviously, we all remember the Bills going up against Arizona, falling behind 17-3 before having a great second half, finding a way to hold on at the end. The Ravens, they had a tough loss against Kansas City where Isaiah Likely nearly ties it up. They looked like they would have gone for two if he ended up in bounds. And then you have the loss against the Raiders. Kamal saying, if we beat you, I'll be happy. But if we lose, it'll suck. But it's only week one. We'll see you again in January. That's absolutely the case. It's crazy to have a game like this week one because you're tempted to say, well, this is the game of the year. Like, this is a huge matchup. It's a rematch between the playoffs last year. Two defending MVP quarterbacks. It's an amazing matchup to start the year. That's not like a Thursday night with the Super Bowl champs. And the tough part you got to tell yourself is both of these teams are going to take on. Well, I don't know if Baltimore does, but both of these teams are going to be taking on Kansas City later this year too, because Baltimore obviously won the AFC North. The Bills win the AFC East. So even though this is a huge game for both teams, they still have another big one that might be bigger for both teams. And I guess the thing that's intriguing about me is you never know what's going to carry over from season to season. Baltimore last year had a lot of Buffalo similarities from the earlier Josh Allen, Sean McDermott era, where they were kind of, I don't want to say front runners / top heavy, but they had the unbelievable roster. They had the ability to put an onslaught on teams, just kill teams. When they were at their best, the Ravens were the best team in football last year. But a lot of times they would self-sabotage themselves. They would get in their own way. They would cost themselves. And that's the reason why the Ravens haven't won a Super Bowl with Lamar is because they get in their own way like we saw in the playoffs last year. In the regular season down on Sunday Night Football in Baltimore, they trounced the Bills. They killed them. We have not seen almost anybody, even the Chiefs, do that to the Bills over the last 3+ years. But the Ravens did. And even if the Bills had injuries and we're trying to figure things out, the Ravens killed Buffalo. And then even in the playoff game last year, the Ravens outgained the Bills by 140 yards. So, yes, Buffalo, I think, played the game that they wanted to. But a lot of times when you see Buffalo playing the Ravens, they realize they have to try to slow down the Ravens. So it's more containing them. Trying to make things longer, trying to limit their explosive plays, contain with your defensive ends, run the ball, kill clock. But you never know what you're going to see season to season. What's going to be interesting in this game is, are we going to see more of what happened in the playoffs last year or more what happened on Sunday Night Football last season? And I really don't have an answer. I don't like the matchup of Lamar Jackson going up against the Bills secondary right now. That's very scary for me. But when you have Josh Allen, you have all these guys on offense, James Cook, Coleman, Palmer, Shakir, you should be able to score with them. So ultimately, this is a game to me. Who makes fewer mistakes? Who protects the ball? Who's smarter? And I can't tell you with certainty how that's going to play out. I really don't know. If you ask me who the more talented team is, I'm probably going to say the Baltimore Ravens. But it's in Buffalo. It's a home opener. Both teams are going to be riled up and ready to go, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. But this is one of the few teams in the NFL where I look at them and I say the Bills have to play their best football just to have a chance. And I don't even really feel that way against Kansas City. Yes, the Bills lose against Kansas City, but I think a lot of times against Kansas City, it's the Bills getting in their own way. Against Baltimore, I don't even think it's the Bills getting their own way. Like, they have to play their best to beat the Ravens.
I think the biggest thing about looking at just as you mentioned, the start, like this being week one and being how important can this matchup be? You also looking at it from the Ravens and Bills side for what they both have a week 7 bye. And Kamal here put in there, they got KC early. They do. They have KC week 4, but listen to the Ravens start of this season compared to the Bills. At Buffalo, home to Cleveland, whatever, home to Detroit, at Kansas City, home to Houston, home to the Rams. A lot of home games, but that's a tough stretch to start your season. Conversely, Bills obviously start with Baltimore, then it's at the Jets, Miami, New Orleans, New England, at Atlanta. Like getting off to a hot start and having momentum early is more. The Bills are going to have time to correct. The Bills playing the Jets next week is going to feel, and playing Justin Fields compared to Lamar Jackson is going to feel like switching from Heisman to rookie. Sorry, at least through the air, at least it's going to feel like that. Like it's a lot different of a pressure on the team for the where they're going to be at. Like, I mean, yeah, I feel you, bro. Like this is, and then the back half of the schedule is a lot of the AFC North division games too. The schedule has worked out better for the Bills than it looks for the Ravens this year, the way the schedule has falls. And that's just what it is. So while I don't think there's any lack of motivation or any motivational difference going into this game, which I've seen some people be concerned about, like, oh man, the Ravens need to get their lick back from the playoffs. They're angry from last year. Like the Bills are going to be just as motivated as the Ravens coming into this game to get it done, all the emotions, everything else. That start to the season is way more vital, I think, with this week 1 game for Baltimore, just for the outlook of where they're at with having to play the teams they have to play in these first 6 weeks than the Bills do. All that being said, I think it really just we talked about that D-line earlier. We talked about Joey Bosa, a healthy Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard. That's where this game gets decided. If that D-line and the linebackers are just getting pushed around, the Ravens are just going to be able to run the ball like they were last year in the early season matchup. It's going to be a long day for the Bills. I really think the offensive side of the ball, I think Josh and Co will be able to move the ball and get into the 20s and put them in a position to win. I think they've been able, besides the disaster that happened on Sunday night last year, which had a lot to do with a Shakir injury and just other factors going into that game, it more comes down to me the trench battle on that defensive side of the ball. Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, the new defensive tackles, the young guys, can they make an impact? Can Deion Walker have a play? Can TJ Sanders have a play here or there? Can Joey Bosa get to Lamar? Can Milano make an impact spying Lamar in this game, however they try to defend it? Can they contain Derrick Henry from having the 70-yard run for a touchdown in this game, or the big, chunk plays that seem to always happen in these big games against the Bills in the run game? Like that might be what I say for every game this season in these big games, but like that's where this is going to be decided as much as anything. Yeah, because that will allow, like Mike, you mentioned the secondary. I'm a little concerned about the secondary, but if the D-line plays well, it's going to make Christian Benford and whoever is playing across from him life a lot easier against Flowers and everything else. Likely being out is a huge factor in this game, because I think Ravens fans, and Kamal can mention it in the comments here if he wants, I don't think they're as confident in Mark Andrews after seeing him from last year. And it's not just from the playoff game. It looked like he slowed down a little bit last year, likely kind of took over that spot. It's not going to be, they need Isaiah Likely to be as good of an offense as they want to be, specifically in the passing game this year. So for me, it just comes down to, can this defensive line unit, revamped almost tenfold by the Buffalo Bills, have an impact on Lamar and Henry enough in this game? Because Josh, really, like you said, the thing on offense is just eliminate mistakes. And Josh was the best at it last year. The least amount of negative plays, whether it came sacks, turnovers, everything else. We talked about regression to the mean for just the offensive scoring. Are the Josh turnovers going to rear their head again on the offensive side? That's the thing that I look for too, especially against a defense like this. Kyle Hamilton back there, one of the best, most talented defenses in the league. Is he going to be pushing it all? Is that going to be, or is this something that's completely changed over for Josh, and he's just the guy that doesn't take sacks and doesn't turn the ball over anymore? Because last year, if we're just looking at it holistically for his career, last year's the anomaly. Like last year is, then usually if we're talking about regression, those things regress. So the Bills having a clean game offensively and the defensive line playing above expectation, I think is the way that you get this done. But I agree with you guys in the fact that I think that the Ravens have a better roster, and this is just a tough matchup for this team, specifically in the regular season. Even a couple years ago when they won that game in Baltimore, they're down 20-3 early and have to storm back. And there's a controversial roughing the passer call that I'm sure Ravens fans would be happy to bring up on Josh Allen that kept that game alive late into it. So they've had to have breaks and be near perfect. And in the playoff game last year, obviously the turnovers and everything else, bringing up Mark Andrews again, like they've had to be near perfect to be on the same playing field with this team. I don't see how it's any different. This is, and Josh in here, they do well against Henry, but it's that 75-yard run is within the game breaker in a couple of these matchups with Tennessee and with Baltimore in years past, so and other teams too. So that's where I'm at. I think the Bills can win this game, but it's a really tough matchup for a week one when Josh. We haven't seen Josh. I mean, not that we ever really see him in the preseason, but we've seen growing pains, as you mentioned, in season openers, and just what's his defensive line going to be able to do against this kind of team in this spot here. It's a big question mark heading into this season, and it's the biggest test they'll get early on.
No doubt.
So anybody want to make a prediction?
Yeah. I mean,
let's go.
I guess I can start us off. For me, although it's week one, like I don't think we can throw the point out the window that like, hey, this like let's say both things go right for both teams. This could be the number one seed on the line. Like if this is a game that's week 16 scheduled, it's on prime time and it's getting ads everywhere pushing. It's the race for the number one seed. So although it's week one, like this is a huge game when it could come down to the number one seed. So I think that's what makes this so special between Lamar and Josh. Pair that with the one seed possibility. But with this said, we talked about it. Ravens, when they're hitting, most talented team in the league by far. And just the identity they have of smash mouth football, but then they can also run read options, and Lamar is versatile as can be. And then just when you send guys in the box, they throw it over your head and play action, and it's such a diverse RPO game. So pair that with a defense that was red hot last year, and they're going to be a really tough beat. So for me, it all comes down to the turnover battle. 80% of teams that win the turnover battle, something like that stat, get the job done. The Bills are going to need a turnover, an interception, a fumble, you name it, if they have any chance at winning this game, in my opinion. Could they do it without a turnover? Yeah, but it's going to have to be a score that's like 45-42. In that case, though, I think Baltimore's just got a little bit more, especially to start the year with their schedule and everything like that. I think they got a little bit more juice than the Bills. Give me Baltimore 30-27.
Damn. Wow, Carson.
Year after year.
Typical Carson. It's typical Carson.
Wow. Typical Carson. Well, we got Jets week 2, so you just wait.
Don't call us a Homer Bills podcast. We got Carson here for all the negativity.
Someone's got to bring it.
Yeah, so I'll go next here. Again, I think this is a great matchup. I talked about it a little bit ago, and I do worry about this secondary, but I do think it is a fair test for this Bills defense. I think Cole Bishop is going to be in situations against Baltimore in big moments down the stretch. I think we could see if Max Hairston doesn't, get it going or does well with his reps when given when he comes back from injury. I think we could see a Jamarcus Ingram or a Dorian Strong in these big moments. So these games, I think, are the most important for these players because they are in these moments in games that matter even more than just, a typical regular season game. And they all matter. But I think this Bills team, and we talked about the schedules and how the Ravens might have a little bit more juice because they got a tough stretch. I think the Bills, you could look at it this way too. I think the Bills are looking at it. If you look at a schedule in quarters, I mean, if you get by this Ravens team, you're probably feeling really good going into week 2 and week 3, week 4, and moving forward there, that you do have a little bit easier of a schedule. So if you can get by this really hard test, you can figure out the kinks and be 1-0 and then kind of, ride and pick up momentum. And then when you're challenged again with Kansas City, and I think they play Houston, and there's a couple other challenges down there, especially later in the season, you're ready for those moments. So I think this is a really big test for this team. I think the Bills fall short. I think they are going to lose 27-24 in Highmark, the final home opener of the season with the fans rowdy. I just think this Ravens offense is going to do more than what I think this Bills offense is going to do. I think the Ravens offense is just more ready. The Bills, I'm not saying the preseason really matters, but Josh Palmer still needs to get integrated. Keon Coleman, we still need to figure out with what he is. He's going to have to really assimilate himself into this offense with Joe Brady and what he can do coming off I would say an average year for expectations and dealing with the injury. So I like this Ravens team. I think defensively, I mean, there's studs all over it. And I just think they're going to have enough to come in and beat Buffalo and get the job done.
Wow. You guys are unbelievable. We might as well start calling this the Pay the Ravens podcast.
Bias bunt.
You guys are giving them
bias bunt. Here we go.
You guys are giving them a lot of stuff. Those Ravens are going to get fed off all the food that you're giving them right now. You guys not remember what happened last January, the last time these two teams played? Do you not remember which team won when it mattered? I think you guys are forgetting a lot of history between these two teams, and
playoffs. Yeah, it was in the playoffs.
It honestly really, really bothers me what I'm hearing out of all of you guys, because I also have the Ravens winning 27-23. AJ, for as much as we go at it, like our predictions are almost like identical. I'm glad I'm on the under, though. That's the only thing that's different is the over-under was 50.5. So you going over, me going under makes me feel a little bit better that at least I would win some money on that. I don't feel good about this game because you think about it, the Ravens offense always seems to be gelling. Like I early in the year, I know that they've struggled in some of these games last season against the Chiefs and the Raiders, but Lamar Jackson, September, October seems like unstoppable. When he has his guys, he's healthy, they're full strength, they have the ability to run. Their receivers are getting open. Like we forget who was it? Zay Jones. Oh my God, Zay Flowers didn't play last year in the playoff game. That makes a difference. Like you're going to have to contend with that. That's another weapon you have to deal with that will make a difference for the Ravens. And if the weather is good, a lot of these games against the Ravens where the Bills have won, weather, I don't want to say it's been a factor, but it's had an element. Playing in the cold in Buffalo in January isn't the same as playing in 70 degrees and ideal temperatures. The game in Baltimore a few years ago that the Bills won and came back, it was a rain game. There was a lot of weather elements to it. Perfect elements, it's going to be hard to stop Lamar where they have great footing and they know what they're doing and they have full speed and nothing really to slow them down. And the other thing that scares me a little bit too, the Bills haven't really played anybody that matters in the preseason. Are they going to be ready to go week one? Khalil Shakir hasn't been practicing. Is he going to be 100% in this game? We haven't seen Josh Palmer and Josh Allen play together in actual game reps. Offensive line-wise, they haven't even had a lot of snaps. How are they going to look with James Cook, who I wouldn't expect that to be a big issue, but he missed several parts of training camp. So I have concerns that they might be a little rusty offensively. And then defensively, I'm with you, Jake. The Bills' defensive line is going to win them or lose them this game. I don't care what people say about the secondary. That's not going to be the ultimate factor in what wins this game. When the Bills play Lamar Jackson, the one thing you always see them is contain. It's try to keep Lamar in the pocket. Don't let him go downfield. So you're going to have receivers that are going to have time. They're going to have guys that get open. But can the Bills generate enough pressure and stay in their contain to where they can make Lamar Jackson make difficult decisions and not just be able to run all over them and have 5 million seconds to make whatever decision he needs? That's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. Greg Rousseau has had good moments against the Ravens, and then he's had bad moments in contain against the Chiefs the next round in the playoffs. This is where Joey Bosa makes a huge difference. If Joey Bosa and Matt Milano come to play and they bring it this game, Bills absolutely have a chance. Those are the two biggest players in this game for me, for the Bills defense. If they show up, the Bills have a chance to win. If Bosa and Milano struggle, it's going to be a long night for the defense. I have this going 27-23. I could flip it. I could see the Bills winning it that way, but I don't know revenge or any of the emotions from last year really make a difference. Yeah, Baltimore wants to win. They want to give it to Buffalo. Ultimately, it doesn't matter when it's week 1 versus the AFC Divisional Round. The Bills are going to be just as excited to win an opener in front of their home crowd. So we're going to have a good game. I think it's a coin flip. Edge to the Ravens just because I think they have a slightly better roster.
Wow. I can't believe what just happened over the last 10 minutes here. I agree with everything you guys said. I think that it's a scary matchup for a season opener. The Ravens are probably the most talented roster on paper in the NFL. And I think that that's fair to say. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Maybe you want to talk, if you want to talk the Eagles, like that's the only other team I think you talk about. But Lamar Jackson is the ultimate tiebreaker in that scenario. Obviously, much better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. So I think it's the best roster in the league. I think that there's a lot of worries about what the Buffalo Bills have to do to kind of slow down Lamar Jackson. But I do think you mentioned the thing that I'm most optimistic about, Joey Bosa, and specifically a healthy Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard in this matchup, coming in and being able to have an impact on this game. I mean, Milano, like the Milano thing in the last couple of years is just like, there's been no consistency, right, with him on and off the field. Coming into this season fully healthy, there's a lot of people who I've seen a lot of mentions of him in like top 5, top 10 linebacker conversations if he's playing at his peak. I don't know if he's that guy anymore, but if he is, he has a tangible impact on this game. But it is the defense. Like I said, it's all up to the defensive line. But I think you guys are too low on the Bills offense. I really do. I know that we have talked about regression. I know that we're worried about what the chemistry is going to be like with the wide receivers and everything else, but it's year 2 of chemistry with Coleman and Shakir. We've seen what he can do with that. Josh Palmer, maybe Palmer isn't going to be the guy right away in this moment, but we talked about Josh last week talking in depth about wanting to get Kincaid more involved. Healthy Kincaid is a big difference for this offense. This offensive line was one of the best units they've ever had last year. Nothing's changed on it. And yes, they've been one of the healthiest units in the last couple of years in the league. But week 1, they're as healthy as they can be walking into week 1 with everything else. I think that goes the same for that defensive side of the ball. When we're talking about Milano, when we're talking about Bosa, just the health, I think, benefits the Bills as much as anything else in this matchup. So I think the tiebreaker comes to the being at home here, and I'm going with the Bills to win 24-23.
Let's go.
One of us had to. Jake. I get it. I respect you more, Jake, because you knew, like, okay, all of us are going anti-Bills right now. I'm picking the Ravens, and you're like, I know I'm going to get this pick wrong, but I'm going to pick the Bills because we want Bills fans to know.
No, that's not it at all. That's not. See,
about them.
I can't wait until I'm going to clip this immediately, like 5 seconds after the game ends when the Bills win Sunday, because Mike Bunt needs to get dunked on so hard.
Yes.
And so it'll be there immediately.
We got to do standings this
week. We all basically just said the same thing about the same game and picked a 3-point margin, but Bunt had to take his shot to get it in. So all right, Bunt, you're setting the tone for the season. Let's go. I'll be ready for it. I picked the Bills to go 15-2 this year. I think they're going to be the best team in football. I don't think that the roster is as bad as low as everybody else compared to the league. No, they don't have the all pros. No, they don't have that. It's a young core coming up. They've built this thing the way with a lot of guys, not star players, with a lot of guys that fill the roles. They got better than last year. Nobody thought they were going to be the team they were last year. They got picked behind the Jets by Carson in the division.
Carson, that was pretty bad, man. I'm sorry, dude.
So I'm sorry.
Bunt, you picked the Sabres to make the offs too.
I still think the best thing, and I think that this game, one way or the other, these are 2 of the best teams in the NFL. And
by the way, Jake, I hope I'm wrong.
Can't wait.
I hope we're all wrong.
I would hope you're wrong. Yeah.
You know what?
I know.
Maybe the 3 of us picking the Ravens is just because we're scared and we're living out of fear, and we don't want to be let down again, Jake, because we love the team so much and we don't want to be hurt.
I don't live in fear. I don't know what to tell you.
Obviously you don't. You picked them to go 15-2. So
it's the jinx.
That's where we're at. I can't jinx this team more than anybody else has throughout history. Listen, everybody else, I'm not taking blame for this trauma here for anything else. Maybe don't build on an Indian burial ground. I'll just keep coming back to it. It's not a great idea ever in history. So, but hey, if it's me saying the Bills will do it, I'll take it.
I don't care like what the result of this game is. I still have a feeling like the Bills are going to start 6-1. If they lose this with the next 6 games, I think they could roll out a streak of 6 straight after this. So regardless of what happens this game, I feel like we're going to be talking about a 1 seed midway through the season. Just because the Bills' schedule, the way it goes after this, unless they somehow get upset against Miami or New England, which I don't see those happening, like this is a season where it is lined up to be in that 1 seed competition. Another guy just picked the Bills to go to the Super Bowl and win it, Adam Shine. That's on top of Bill Simmons, a lot of different people throughout NFL circles. So we'll see if people are right or not. But either way, regardless of what happens week 1 against the Ravens, both of these teams are going to be fine. They're both going to have a great season. And ultimately, the Bills have probably a slight advantage over the Ravens for the majority of the year just because they're contending with the AFC East while the Ravens have to contend with the AFC North. And Cincinnati and Pittsburgh pose bigger problems than what Miami and New England do. And then you factor in that this game is in Buffalo and what their schedule is afterwards, while the Ravens have to play a lot of difficult teams. But this could go either way. We'll see how it plays out. And I think you're looking at the 2 most talented teams in the AFC this season. I know the Chiefs have gone to 5 of the last 7 Super Bowls. If I was picking an AFC championship right now, this would be the matchup. I think this is the year Kansas City doesn't make it back. That's my bold pick.
That's a bold pick.
With that.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah, that would have been a hot start for sure. I do think there's something to the division and the AFC West being a thing. We'll see. It's going to be fun. I'll have a lot more NFL predictions later on this week for everybody following along Trainwreck Sports. So keep it tuned there. I'll put everything on paper, everything out there for you all to rip apart at some point during the season if you'd like. But I think we paid the bills here. AJ, Mike, anything else before we go?
Looking forward.
All good? Ready for Sunday?
Oh, I'm excited. Can't wait.
It's wild. I can't believe we're here.
Almost
here. I mean, hey, we got real NFL football in 2 days. We got Eagles, Cowboys Thursday night kicking us all off, and then I'm sure we'll be locked in Friday night for Mike's prediction to come true about the Chiefs here. Maybe they lose to the Chargers week 1 in Brazil. That'd be a hot start. The Fighting Harbaughs, you never know. But great weekend on tap.
In the AFC Championship.
Hey, wait, what? Did you say Chargers?
Chiefs will be in the AFC Championship.
Oh, okay. I also think it's going to be Bills Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Yikes.
That's where I'm leaning towards too. But hey,
0-5.
Hey, we'll be back. We'll be around all this week getting ready for the game and on game day and post game and throughout the whole season. So thank you for joining along. If you joined along to this episode of it. That's one thing we can share for sure, Ravens fans. And I think pretty much 31 other fan bases. We all hate Case. Someone's got to get it done. It's not going to be us. It's got to be them. If they win one this year, oh man, Taylor Swift getting an honorary Super Bowl ring is not what I need in my life. Like no shade to her music. I do like it, but we don't need that. All right, we paid the bills. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Go Bills.
Peace out.